Hey guys, this is your host Eric. Today we are going to watch fantasy genre movie called Gulliver's Travel. Spoilers ahead, turn on your subtitle, I greatly appreciate your support. Enjoy the video. Gulliver, a middle-aged man, wakes up in his messy New York apartment and does his morning things. He talks to his superhero toys on a shelf and dances in the shower to show us his silly side. Gulliver works at a New York newspaper company in the mail room. On that day, he meets a new worker named Dan and starts to get along with him. Gulliver is Dan's boss in the mail room, where the two of them deliver the day's mail. They meet Gulliver's, his longtime crush, and a journalist named Darcy Silverman. He has loved her for a long time but has never told her. Later that day, Dan puts up a sign saying that he has been given the job of head of the mail department. Gulliver has worked at the facility for 10 years, but no one there respects him. Dan says that Gulliver is afraid to talk and will never get anywhere in life besides his mailroom job because he is afraid to talk. Gulliver is upset as he leaves the office and sees Darcy working late. He gets up the courage to ask her out and goes to her cabin. But his nerves get the best of him, so he takes a random piece of paper from her desk and leaves. Darcy asks him if he would like to try out for a job writing about travel. A nervous fool agrees, and the next day he has to turn in a travel blog. The house. The next day at work, he copies and pastes a few articles from the internet for the blog. He gives it to Darcy, who is impressed by how well he writes and gives him a new assignment. She wants him to impress her by going to the Bermuda Triangle and writing a story about the stories of ships going missing there. Gulliver agrees. Darcy sets up a meeting with someone and a boat for him. The next day, Gulliver flies to Bermuda, where a man picks him up. He takes Gulliver to a boat he has rented and shows him how to use it. The trip is pretty easy. Now that the boat is fully automated, Gulliver sails alone to the Bermuda Triangle. He has fun for the first few hours by reading how to build a robot, books and magazines, and drinking several cans of Coke. He soon falls asleep. After a while, he wakes up and sees a huge wave coming toward him. When a storm comes up at sea, he quickly puts on a life jacket and shakes the boat hard in the water. When Gulliver turns around, he sees a huge sea tornado coming toward him. Gulliver is sucked on top of the tornado in his boat. Then the screen goes black right in its eye. Gulliver can't move his body when he opens his eyes. When he looks down, he is surprised to see some small men standing on his chest. The person in charge of them says that he is the commander, Edwardian of the Lilliput. The camera zooms out to show a crowd of tiny people standing around Gulliver. Small ropes and pieces of wood are holding him to the ground. Gulliver is called up by Commander Edward. Gulliver screams out of fear and gets away from the ropes. I could easily think this is all a dream. He does his best to close his eyes. Edward tells his soldiers to take care of the beast. The soldiers hook Gulliver's pants with their hooks and knock him out. When Gulliver wakes up, he is tied to a cart and being pulled into the kingdom of Lilliput. When they get there, the tiny people come out of their homes so that the king of Lilliput can see the beast. He is brought into the royal palace and put on display. King Theo, Princess Mary Pittis, who is the king's daughter, meets Gulliver and asks Edward if he needs to be held back. Edward says that Gulliver is a spy for the people who want to hurt them. Kingdom Blefia. Gulliver finally speaks up and asks the king where he is. Jinx, who works for King Theodore, tells him that he is in Lilliput, which is the best country in the world. Gulliver thinks this is a joke, so he asks the cameraman who doesn't exist to show himself in the next scene. Gulliver is locked up inside A. He meets a man named Horatio who is also in prison. Edward puts Horatio in jail for life because he tried to court Princess Mary. Edward comes up to them again and listens to what they have to say. He calls himself Lemas. When Edward gets mad and says he will lock them up for life, Gulliver says that laws means a brave person. Satisfied with the reply, Edward takes both prisoners to a field and plows it with them. With Gulliver's strength, he uses a machine to hold Gulliver down. Just then, two bella herds sound from the palace, letting everyone know that Lafayette has. They have set a fire at the palace and are trying to take Princess Mary away. Edward runs quickly to the palace and tells everyone not to help save the princess because he wants to do it himself. Edward can't get to her in time, so Hario asks Gulliver to do it. Gulliver easily beats the Blefian soldiers and saves the princess, but the king and his secretary get stuck in the fire. He was in a hurry, sprays urine on the building. When he puts out the fire and saves King, everyone cheers for him. He and Horatio are freed by the king, who thanks Gulliver for being brave. He also invites everyone to a feast that will be held at night to mark the event. Edward can't stand it when someone else gets credit for being brave. The king asks Gulliver where he is from at the feast, and Gulliver says he is from Manhattan. People in Manhattan think that Gulliver is the president because he is the bravest person there. Gulliver feels like a hero for the first time in his life, so he makes up a story that he was known as president. Everyone believes him except for Edward, who thinks he is awesome. The next day, the people of Lilliput built Gulliver a huge house with all the amenities he missed while he was in. Gulliver also makes them build a theater big enough for the whole kingdom to fit in. Then he shows them a play about the Titanic sinking and says it's about his life. Everyone can't believe how bad his life has been. Edward asks Gulliver how he was saved after he drowned, and Gulliver says he was brought back to life. Horatio later asks Gulliver to help him get the attention of Princess Mary, and Gull agrees, so the two of them go to the palace, where Horatio talks to the princess. The words to the song Kiss-Making Horatio are said by a hidden Gulliver. By the end, the princess starts to like her prince, but Edward, who has come to court, calls her. Since Edward is the bravest person in the kingdom, it was always meant for them to get married. Princess Mary doesn't like Edward very much, but she can't seem to get rid of him. The search team finds a beach boat with Coke cans on it. When Gull Oliver gets there, his phone is still working. He has 12 messages on his phone from Darcy. It turns out that she is very angry that Gulliver's copied from other works. She now has to sail the same route. Gull Oliver stopped by to look into the Bermuda Triangle on her own. Gulliver doesn't want to go back to New York and face her, so he decides to stay in Lilliput for good. Edward doesn't like the decision, and he tells the king that he thinks Gulliver is up to no good. The king tells him to go away, saying that he trusts Gulliver because he stayed with him. The king makes Gull Oliver the new general and moves Edward down to the position of vice general. Edward, who is jealous, turns off Lily's defense system, which makes it easier for their enemies to attack. When the soldiers and King of the Bleefine see this, they want to attack Lilliput right away. They go through the water to get to the kingdom and fire cannonballs at Lilliput, who is the general. Now it's up to Gulliver to stop them. He steps into the water nervously and starts splashing it around. Gulliver is much bigger than the cannonballs, so they don't hurt him. In the end, he beats the Blues and saves the world. All of Gulliver's wishes are met by the people of Lilliput, so he would feel at home. They even made a model of Times Square. They changed their clothes to look like Gulliver's soldiers, who are in charge of cutting his hair and massaging him. One night, Edward storms into the room of the princess. He says he can come in whenever he wants because he likes the princess. The princess finally tells him that she doesn't love him and doesn't want him to court her anymore. Edward goes to BLAFIA to ask for help because he is angry. The men working for Edwards have found the book Gulliver had on the boat about how to build robots. The king of the Bleefine agrees to help him use the book to build a robot to fight Gulliver. A few days later, Gulliver is in model Times Square when the palace bells start to ring, which is a sign of an attack. Gulliver gets ready to fight tiny people, but he is shocked when Edward stands in front of him with a huge robot. Edward asks him to fight in a duel. Gulliver doesn't have any choice but to agree. He tries to push the robot, but it is much stronger than him. It grabs Gulliver by the pants and forces him to give up. Gulliver also admits that everything he said about being president was a lie. The king and princess are shocked that he turned against them. As a punishment for Gulliver's bad behavior, Edward sends him to the island where we dare not go. There, a huge little girl picks him up. It turns out that giants live on the island. The girl thinks Gulliver is a toy, so she keeps him in her Barbie house and dresses him in pink. In the meantime, Darcy's body washes up on the shore in Lilliput. Everyone knows that Darcy is Gulliver's princess back home, so Edward knows who she is and locks her up. King Theodore and his queen are in prison after Gulliver's defeat. She meets them there. Horatio sees this and decides to get Gulliver back by going to the island where we are afraid to go. He is tiny on the island, but he makes it to Gulliver without getting hurt. A dead US Air Force skeleton is also in the little girl's dollhouse. Gulliver escapes with the help of the parachute and flies back to Lilliput. He first goes to the prison to meet Darcy and tells her that he likes her. She doesn't mind that he stole the article and seems to be getting closer to him. Gulliver has decided to have a fight with Edward. He no longer wants to show how brave he is, but he still wants to help Lilliput. The next day, he and Lily stand ready to fight. Gulliver wants Edward to give the kingdom back to King Theodore if he wins. But if he loses, he wants Edward to destroy the kingdom. When they fight, it only takes a few seconds for Edward to beat him. Horatio runs over to help him and gets into the robot. He beats Edward from inside the robot, which eventually stops working. After that, Gulliver beats it easily, and the crowd cheers and goes wild. Even Darcy is happy about the win because of how brave Horatio was. He finally gave the two of them permission to court Princess Mary. But right at that moment, Edward, who has gone crazy, takes the princess hostage. But when the princess has had enough of Edward, she gets angry and beats up the traitor. Darcy then gives Gulliver his first kiss. The King of the Blues and Theodore are about to start a new war, but Gulliver stops them. By reading Edwin Starr's War, he is able to help make peace between the two island nations. And finally, he and Darcy took their fixed car back to New York City. Several weeks later, Gulliver has quit his job in the mailroom and is now a travel writer. Now, he and Darcy are together and happy. Gulliver has just finished a job that required him to travel. And the movie ends as he and Darcy walk out of his office holding hands. We really appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell because it is really important for us. Thank you.